Hello and welcome to MMA Crypt Fighting Talk. For today's show, I'll be speaking with Jack Mason on his upcoming bout against Benny Alloway at Cage Warriors 65 on the 1st of March. With that, welcome to MMA Crypt Fighting Talk, Jack.
How you doing, Greg? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing good, Jack. It's my pleasure to have you. Okay, I'd like to start today's show off with a little bit of smack talking from Mr. Benny Alloway. I'll just read him out to you here, Jack. He made a tweet that read, "Punches pretty slow and can't really kick. Most have named him the wet blanket. Hashtag Cage Warriors 65. Hashtag hungry as ever to damage this guy. See you soon at Cage Warriors." What do you make of those comments to you, Jack?
I think it's fair enough, if I was going to sit there and watch some of my fights, or, I'd probably say that, potentially my striking was maybe the weakest area, and, that's something that I've been working on, so, obviously, it's just like something I would expect, someone to say, do you know what I mean? And I take the wet blanket as a compliment, if what I mean is that, when I take you down, it's very hard to get me off you, so, yeah, it's just a bit of fun, and I think it seems like Ben Alloway has to do some trash talk to get himself up for a fight. So,
Well, you accepted his criticism of your stand-up, but do you think that your stand-up is better than Benny Alloway's? Because let's not mess around here. You've got some pretty decent stand-up yourself.
I've been working hard on my stand-up. I've been doing some good. I've been working hard with my boxing coaches, Steve Whitwell from St Ives ABA and John Tandy from Tandy Boxing, and my boxing and stand-up has really improved recently. It's always been good. To be honest, I don't show it so much because maybe wrestling is the way for me to win the fights against some of the opponents we're fighting. So it's just stylistically that's how I fought, but it doesn't mean that I can't, can't fight and stand up. And I've got some pretty good knockouts on my record, So maybe Benny will be, in for a surprise.
Saying that though, Jack, is Benny's trash talk sort of fueling you to maybe wanting to knock him out there, Jack?
Not really. I'm kind of too smart to get goaded into this trash talk stuff. It doesn't really affect me at all. I kind of expect it, and especially from an Australian as well. They love to talk things up and make a big thing about sporting events. So it's cool. I'm just rolling with the punches, and I'm just looking forward to letting my fighting do the talking, and I'm going to go and do that on Saturday.
Well, he said he's going to damage you. Any response to that, Jack?
Of course, that's how he's going to win a fight, is by doing damage. I've had 38 fights. I've taken some damage and I've given some damage, and I'm pretty sure I can do some pretty bad damage to Ben Alloway as well. So we'll just see what happens Saturday night.
I read a recent interview with Benny Alloway. He mentioned that you are a gatekeeper for the Cage Warriors Welterweight division. Do you find that disrespectful, considering your rankings in the UK and your record in Cage Warriors, especially your last 6 fights? You're 5-1 in Cage Warriors. Do you find that a little disrespectful towards you, Jack?
I wouldn't say it's disrespectful. I think it's maybe a bit deluded. I've pretty much I've beaten a lot of the top ranked guys in Cage Warriors at welterweight. I fought much of my career at middleweight, where I was pretty undersized and dwarfed by a lot of the bigger middleweight guys. So now I'm welterweight and fighting guys the same size as me, and I'm doing pretty well. So I wouldn't say I'm a gatekeeper. I think I'm number one contender for the Cage Warriors title, to be honest. Like last weekend, Manny Roberts, Jake Boswick, Matt Inman all fought on Cage Warriors, and they're all on big win streaks, and I fought all of those guys. I beat Boswick, I beat Matt Inman. I beat a lot of the welterweights they put in front of me. I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm a contender.
Well, it sounds like you're studying yourself for a Cage Warriors title shot. Is that what you think is next for you, Jack, if you are victorious against Benny Alloway?
I hope so. I think I would have done enough to warrant a shot. And definitely. And that's kind of my only goal for this year. Is to win that Cage Warriors belt. That's my only real goal in MMA at the moment.
Well, I'm looking at the stats, Jack, and you have over double the fights that Benny Alloway has in his pro mixed martial arts career. Do you think that counts for anything once you step inside the cage with Benny Alloway at Cage Warriors 65?
I think it does, but it guys, the guy's very experienced as well. He might have had not as many fights, but he's had some big experiences. Like fighting in the tough house, fighting in some of the big events on UFC. So he's a very experienced and dangerous guy himself. So I don't think my experience will play a huge part in the fight. I think we're both going to go out there to win, and I'm going to come away victorious.
Well, his one big victory on the Ultimate Fighter Smashes was the knockout of Valentino Petrescu. Now, Valentino's highly ranked in the UK. Does that make you wary of Benny's stand-up skills?
No. I don't actually watch the episode, but I do a lot of training with Valentino, and I can't even fathom how on earth he made welterweight. The guy is huge. He must have literally, you can tell on the show, I think he must have killed himself to make that weight. I struggle enough as well, but Valentino's twice the size of me, so I wouldn't read too much into that. I think a big, gust of wind would have blown him over, to be honest, in that fight.
Yeah, I spoke to Valentino. He mentioned he did fight at heavyweight at one time, and then he spent most of his career at light heavyweight, so welterweight is a pretty big cut, so...
I think, that's the one and only time he's ever made a welterweight, so, I don't think he'll ever do it again, because I think he'd probably kill himself. So, yeah, I think he did it to try and get into the UFC, and, unfortunately paid the price for it, but I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't read too much into that fight. I think Valentino, beats Benny Alloway, if he didn't have that big weight cut.
Well, going a little off topic here, Jack. I spoke to Alex Reid recently. Now, he mentioned that he dropped down in weight for the Ultimate Fighter Season 9, and he really struggled with the weight cut. You mentioned Valentino. Do you actually understand why guys make these severe weight cuts to make it onto the Ultimate Fighter? Because it just seems to damage their careers more than it does help them.
Well, I do understand, because they want to get into UFC. That's the reason why they're doing it. But there's not a chance in hell. I could never go into the Ultimate Fight House as a welterweight, because I wouldn't be able to. I can't make welterweight on short notice. I need time to get down to that weight. And I think some of those guys have paid the price for it. Such as Alex Reid and Valentino, as you alluded to. So if I ever went in there, I'd have to go in as a middleweight, which probably would be at my disadvantage.
Well, I mentioned Alex Reid. Who won the fight between you and Alex Reid?
I did with that.
Okay, I want to move on to your training for a second here, because obviously I want to know what it's like in the day of Jack Mason, from working full-time to running your BKK MMA class and actually helping you guys train for upcoming fights. What is a typical training day and a life in Jack Mason?
Well, okay, so I work in the City of London, so I'll get up 6 o'clock, make my breakfast, eggs and spinach or something, and then I'll hop on the train. Get either, it depends what day, but either I'll get to Liverpool Street and head straight to my strength and conditioning session with Lawrence Irvin. I'll just typically focus on squats and deadlifts and explosive movements. Then I'll head to work. Do a few hours at work, in the city, and then at 3 o'clock I'll head over to Angel on the tube, get some boxing in for an hour at Tandy Boxing. Then I'll get back to the office, do a couple more hours there, then get back on the train Liverpool Street, head to my car, and then make the journey up to Cambridge to train with the Tsunami guys in the evening. Hop back in the car and get home probably 11:30 at night, and then straight to bed, and then same thing again the next day.
Wow, that's absolutely brutal. Now you can sort of see why Dana White gets pissed off. Do you know when guys come on The Ultimate Fighter, they get this big opportunity, what so many people tried out for, and then they don't make the weight, they start bitching and moaning and whatnot. You can sort of see why he gets pissed off, because there's guys like you, Jack, plying your trade for many, many years in the UK. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Stuff like that, it's a huge opportunity, and if I'm completely honest, that would be my dream, to be a full-time fighter and not have to work. But the way things are now, especially with the sport, it's pretty hard to be able to to pay a mortgage off a fighter's salary, and so I've got to work a day job too. But that said, I love MMA. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I just enjoy being involved in the sport and get to train every day. It's as much as it sounds like a long arduous task in training camp. It's not so much arduous task because it's such good fun. All the guys at Tsunami, all the guys at BKK, make it good fun, and I look forward to every session.
Well, speaking of training, I know you've trained with UFC light heavyweight Alexander Gustafsson. Could you tell me how you met Alexander?
Yeah, so probably that kind of comes from like Tsunami Gym, and Tsunami Gym is part of the Shooters organisation, and has been for like a number of years. So what we used to do, and we still do it now, but we used to do it a lot more frequently, was head over to Gothenburg in Sweden to the Shooters HQ, and we used to train under August Wallen, who had who was coaching Alex Gustafsson at the time, and Alex was there training with like some other guys that fought in the UFC, such as Bassem Youssef and Cage Warriors fighter Victor Cheng, and basically Alex was he was essentially like an ABA boxer and won some like national championships in Sweden and stuff at heavyweight boxing, but he didn't really have much else. But so I was starting out my MMA career back then as well, and we used to do some training together, and used to get together like every couple of months and get some sparring camps in, and it's just phenomenal how much he's improved and how much he's developed, into one of the best light heavyweights in the world, if not the best, in such a short space of time. It's just testament to like how much hard work he's put into the sport.
Well, speaking of UFC superstars, you trained with Chael Sonnen last year too. Did you pick up any good tips? What was it like training with Chael Sonnen last year?
I did some training with him when I was in Vegas, watching Luke make his debut actually, at the Ultimate Fight finale, and didn't really do too much training with Chael, but did a few sessions and picked up a couple of things. But he's got a good team of coaches that travel around with him, even when he's got to go to do like a television event or something. His coaching team will go with him, so he can get some training in whenever he needs to. So I got some training done with him there. He's a great guy. He's an inspirational guy. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. But yeah, he's a really good guy. But I wouldn't say that I picked too much off him in just a couple of hours worth of training.
Should have picked some smack talking up, Jack. You'd be a superstar in a year. Now I want to move back to your Cage Warriors career for a second, Jack. You had a solid 2013 in Cage Warriors with a solid 4-1 record. We touched upon you wanting to challenge for the Cage Warriors title this year. Is there any personal goals you've set for yourself this year, Jack? Like maybe a little win streak or something?
That is my personal goal, is to win the Cage Warriors welterweight title this year.
Nothing else? Nothing like, I want to get a couple of KOs, maybe. I want to get a nice little win streak going.
Personally, I think I've, a win over Benny Alloway, deserves me a shot at that welterweight title. I've currently got the most wins out of any welterweight on the roster at the moment on Cage Warriors. I think I've got 7 wins on Cage Warriors, and last year I had the most amount of wins out of any fighter on the roster. So personally, I think I've done enough. Especially with a win over Benny Alloway to want the title shot. I know that Nicholas Dolby and a Russian guy are fighting for the Cage Warriors welterweight belt at the end of March, and I personally don't think they've done enough to warrant that shot. But I think I would have done when I beat Ben Alloway.
Random question before we leave, Jack. You won the Shock and Awe title back in 2012. What's the status with that belt?
I'm still the current holder, and I'm open to defend it whenever Shock and Awe want to have me on, and it fits into my schedule with Cage Warriors. So yeah, anytime.
Okay, Jack. Thank you for joining me today. Anything you would like to say to our listeners before we leave?
No, just thanks a lot for listening, and thanks very much for having me on.
Okay, to any UK listeners, you can catch Cage Warriors 65 on the Premier Sports channel. That's Virgin Media 551 and Sky Channel 428. From MMA Crypt Fighting Talk, thank you for watching.